Can you make modern beats on an MPC?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Many producers ask this question, and the quote that always comes to mind is, "It's not the gear, it's the person behind it." So why do many producers, maybe even yourself, still make this mistake in thinking in this way? It's because you're taking the wrong advice. You've been told too many times from the people in the industry that music theory is not important, it takes the fun out of music, or it's too complicated to learn, and all these things. But in today's video, I'm gonna be showing you a simple way you can start using theory to start making modern beats. And the more you continue this method, I promise you, you'll start to see how beat making can become more fun and less intimidating, and this will really end your beat block. So make sure you watch until the end, because this might be the most important video you watch. So let's start with some chords, because when you start with a harmony, you really set the tone for the rest of your beat. And the plugin that I'm using is Fabric XL, and I'm gonna be using that for all the melodies. And for the piano, I'm using the Classic Grand preset, and the tempo is set to 99. And I chose 99 specifically because I like this song by DeVito named Conte. I've been having that song on repeat. So when it comes to making modern beats on the MPC, it really starts from the tempo, because without having the right tempo, you're not gonna have the right groove, or you're not gonna have the right bounce. So making sure you find the tempo is important. And if you don't know the tempo of the genre, you could easily just Google this, or you could just easily use one of your favorite songs. We could just go to our grid view, double tap main, and we could just play out a melody. So let's just go over what I just played. We're in the G minor scale, which is G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. So I'm playing G minor, which is G, B flat, D. And then I'm playing the root note at the bottom. The root note is meaning the starting point of the key, which is G, because we're in the G minor scale. And then I'm using the fifth, which is the fifth note in the G minor scale, which is D. And when you play like this, you get more of a fuller sound. And then the next chord I'm playing is actually a C minor 7, but I'm using different voicing. So that means to just spread out the notes to get that fuller sound. So I have the C at the bottom and the B flat right here. And instead of playing this C right here, I'm gonna go ahead and play this D flat and play this G and this B flat. Then I go back to my G minor, just having C at the bottom. Then the next chord was a D minor 7. So sounds like this. Then I just made it fuller by using D and the fifth of D, which is A. So, and the only thing is I just gave it a groove. Now I didn't really do a great job at sustaining the notes, so what I can do is just use this select tool and just edit the ends, bring them closer. And the common sound you may hear in the Afrobeat is a guitar. So I have a guitar, let's just pull that up. And we're using a preset warm harmonics. Now when it comes to adding more melodies, keep it simple, because remember, this genre is really found on the percussions and the drums, giving it that groove. And a quick tip for making good sounding melodies is to use the notes that you're playing in the chords. So you can see that I left a lot of space by adding the notes closer to the end of each bar. And that's going to give more room to the artist and the percussions. Now another sound I would like to add are some bells. And I got the Emotion Bells preset pulled up. And when it comes to adding more melodies, instead of thinking about other counter melodies to fill out the beat, think about layering. So I'm just going to add a note on top of each of the chords. So as you can see, I just have one note playing from each chord. So for the G minor, I just have it played on a G. Let me just zoom in a bit for you guys. And then I have it playing on the C for the next chord. And then I have it playing on the B flat. Now, having it play on the B flat, like I said, is part of the chord that I was still playing, which was a G minor and a C at the bottom. And then I went over here and I played the A. So that's just the fifth of the D. And then I just added a little extra groove to it, and I just went back to the D. So that transition from A to D or D to A, since, you know, they're related to each other in the sense of the root note and the fifth, those go well together. So even though this melody is simple, if you use a distinctive sound, meaning a sound that stands out from the other sounds that you already have and don't blend in, then it's going to sound like there's a lot more going on than there actually is. And another sound that you may also hear in these genres are pads, just like in the Conte song.
beats, the parts I added. Like, it sounds so dreamy.
And once again, I don't have to create a whole different melody. So I'm using the Anna Suite preset for the pads. And what I can actually do is go back to main and just go all the way down to track 1. And right on this column where it says track, go to the pencil tool and I could copy that MIDI over. So as you can see with the bells, I layered it in the sense of layering it where the chords were hitting. But in this sense, I'm gonna be layering the MIDI. So layering, I kind of break it down into 2 ways, and there's probably other ways as well. But those are the initial ways that I'm thinking about it. And then you can just go to the pad track and make sure to rename it because it's gonna keep it the same name of the track that you're copying over. Then press do it again. And another thing is, don't forget to switch the program. So if I go right here, you can see it's still on the piano program. And you just want to go to where your initial program for your pads are. And I named it pads. This is why it's important to name things. Then go to your grid view and you will see that we have our chords laid out for our pads. And together it all sounds like this. And I like using pads layered on the piano because it helps really fill out that harmony. So let's hear it with and without the pads. So we could just go to our mute, which is the mute button right here. And then we could just mute our pads and let's just see how it sounds without it. Yeah, it really brings that emotion to the track. So for the next sound, I actually picked out a perk, but it's not just any kind of perk. It's actually a melodic kind of perk, and it's still from the Fabric XL plugin. So if I go to menu pad 14, I'm using a preset called Droplets, and it sounds something like this. Now I was watching the beat breakdown of Conte, and he was using this lead sound that was just very, subtle in the background.
I needed like something to make it sound more interesting, and I like added this melody. Very interesting. So with chords.
So I wanted to add something like that, but I'm not going to just use a lead sound. You can really use any sound that just blends with what you already have. So you can use like a pluck or a synth that just, share kind of the same frequency and a timbre and just have it play a repetitive rhythm. Now let's go to pad perform, and the shortcut is holding down shift and hitting 16 levels. And I'm gonna be using G, D, and B flat. So let's lay down a melody. And I choose those notes because it's the G minor chord. And the fact that it's the G minor chord, which is the first diatonic chord in that scale, is going to be able to play with the rest of the chords because each of the rest of the chords are using notes from the G minor. So C minor 7, it has a G, and then the other G minor chord. And then you have the D minor, which has the D. Now it's time to get into the best part, and that is the drum and the bass, and I'm gonna be using sounds from TrackLib, which is the sponsor of today's video. So if you don't know what TrackLib is, it's an online record store for sampling. It has over 100,000 real songs from different eras and genres, and many industry and online producers are on it. And they just dropped a new feature called Sounds, which now you can find loops and one-shots, which I think is really cool. Even though I use other platforms to find loops and one-shots, I mainly use TrackLib to get my samples, and the fact that they added this feature, I think they're moving in the right direction. Right now they have a growing selection of instruments, and though I don't see an option to choose different genres at the moment, remember this feature is still new, so I'm pretty sure they're going to add a lot later on. So I actually came across this Mojave kit, and like I said, they don't really have a category for genres, but in some of these kits they will kind of have the genre. So a quick workaround for now, just like how it says Afro beat, then is go to that sample pack, and then you will get the sounds that you're looking for. And besides the whole TrackLib thing, when it comes to finding drum kits, you don't need hella drum kits. You just need to focus on the genre that you're doing and find a drum kit that's specific for that sound. I went ahead and got these sounds. Now, another thing about music theory is not just about learning notes, it's also about counting rhythms. And a lot of producers sleep on building the skill to transcribe rhythms. Once you could really hear and identify where the sounds are hitting on the beats, then it's going to be no question if you can make modern beats on the MPC. So let me show you what I mean. For the most part, we're going to hear that kick in this genre hit on a downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's record that in. We don't have to go all the way since it's just a simple rhythm. And then all we could do is just highlight it and then press copy and just roll it over. And for the rest of the drums and the percussions, it's gonna land on the and the. Now what I mean by this is the subdivisions of the beat. So when you have a quarter note, you will count it 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when you have an 8 note, you will count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then when you have a 16 note, you will count it 1 E and 1 E and . So now having that in mind, let's lay down our drums and our percussions. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and. So when you play it back, and you also have a different rhythm like this. 1 and 4. 1 and 4. So I have this like snare kind of hit, and it's still gonna be with the and the and I could choose where I want to layer it. And. Now for this sound, it could be something like this. 1 and 1 and. Now if you want to switch it up a little, you can even add in that E, cause it's 1 E and E E And then I got this sound. Keep it simple, could make it land on the downbeats. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I got like this drum fill, so we could just add this in. Actually, I'm just gonna bring this to the so we can hear the whole duration of that fill. And that's pretty much it for the drums. So now you can see how powerful it gets once you can start learning how to count rhythms from other genres, and then you can just start implementing that in your music. Now moving on to our last element, the 808. And I also got my 808 from the Mojave kit. Simple like that. I just follow the notes within the chord progression. You know, I have my G and then my C's and then my D, and then I just added that A for another groove. You could also go ahead and add in another, you know, grace note. A grace note is a note that's going into another note if you want to kind of spice up the bass line. So like doom doom. Now before I play out a little arrangement for you, I hope you now see how important music theory can be to your workflow, and how it don't have to be this complicated thing. You just need to take it a day at a time. Then you can really understand how to speak music in anything you do on any gear you use. So another thing is, knowing theory is cool, but you also gotta know the functions on the MPC so you can use the theory and functions of the MPC together to make that.